Let's dive right in. We're going to decode a fundamental law of market physics, something that explains why some brands just grab our attention, while others, even really good ones, just fade away. This is all about why being different is a much more powerful strategy than just being better.
I mean, it's a question that honestly keeps founders and marketers up at night, right? You build a faster, stronger product with more features, you think you've done everything right, and yet you lose. You lose to a competitor that might even be, objectively worse than you. So why does this keep happening? It's not bad luck. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how human attention actually works.
And this is the core signal. We're all taught to believe that the best product wins. It's what we want it to be true. But the market tells a very different story. The real signal is that the most different products wins. It's not about superiority, it's about distinction.
This leads us straight into what we call the better trap. This constant chase for tiny incremental improvements, a slightly faster chip, a marginally better service. It feels productive, but it's really a race to the bottom. It's a strategy that leads to camouflage, and it just makes you invisible in an incredibly crowded market.
So how do you escape this trap? Well, you have to understand the patterns of distinction. We've managed to identify 3 core signals from brands and platforms that win, and they reveal how our memory and our attention are really captured. Let's break them down.
All right, the first signal is all about something called mental contrast. Here's the deal. Our brains are hardwired to notice what's new, what's surprising, what breaks the pattern. We just don't have the mental energy to process tiny incremental improvements. We notice what's different.
Being good is invisible. Just think about that for a second. All your quality, all your features, they don't even register unless you first create a distinct little slot in someone's mind for your brand to live it. Difference is the key that unlocks that door to their memory.
And you see this working brilliantly in the real world. I mean, look at Apple. They didn't just make a slightly better MP3 player. They created this stark, simple white object in a sea of clunky black gadgets. Tesla didn't make a more efficient electric car. They built this radical piece of engineering that looked like it drove out of the future. And Liquid Death? They didn't make healthier water. They put water in a beer can with a heavy metal attitude. All of them created massive mental contrast.
Now for the second signal. This is about creating a whole new category. It's not just about being a different thing, it's about being a different kind of thing. See, the human mind is kind of like a filing cabinet. It doesn't rank 100 different sodas. It has a file for cola, a file for lemon lime, and a file for energy drink. Your goal isn't to be the best thing in an old file, it's to create a brand new file.
So you can see there are 2 completely different games being played. In the better trap, you're just fighting for a slice of the pie, focusing on features, just like most soda brands do. But in the category game, your goal is to create a whole new market, a whole new point of view. Red Bull never said, we're a better tasting soda. No way. They created the energy drink category, and they owned it.
Okay, the third signal, and this one is maybe the most challenging for people to accept. The market doesn't reward safety. Our natural instinct is to avoid friction, to try and please everybody. But in the world of attention, pleasing everyone means you are memorable to no one. A little bit of friction, a strong point of view, that's what creates recall. That's what cuts through all the noise.
And here's where it gets really fascinating. These aren't just little psychological quirks. These principles are now hard-coded into the technology that runs our world. The algorithms on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Amazon, they don't just prefer difference, they actively hunt for it and amplify it.
So this is a crucial takeaway. The fundamental currency of the entire modern attention economy isn't quality, it's difference. Every scroll, every swipe, every recommendation engine. It's a machine that's built to find and promote novelty.
And there's this really powerful feedback loop that explains exactly how it works. First, some novel signal, a weird video, a strange product, a radical idea, it breaks the pattern. Second, that novelty captures our attention. Third, the algorithm sees that spike in engagement and boosts the signal to more people. And finally, boom, difference earns massive, often free distribution. The whole system is built to reward contrast.
So, what happens when you ignore this system? Well, the consequences are severe. Blending in, playing it safe, just trying to be a little bit better, it isn't just a missed opportunity, it's a fatal strategic mistake.
And I know this goes against every corporate instinct you've ever been taught. Blending in feels safe. It feels like the responsible, low-risk path. But in today's market, it is literally the most dangerous thing you can do. For a brand, invisibility is a death sentence.
And the costs are very, very real. You become a commodity, which means you're forced to compete on price. Your market share starts to erode because customers, honestly, have no real reason to remember you. And worst of all, you face an algorithmic penalty. The very platforms that drive discovery literally filter you out of the conversation.
Okay, so let's flip this. How do the winners use this to their advantage? What's their edge? Well, they think about growth in a fundamentally different way. They're not playing the better game at all. They're playing the different game.
It's a tale of two mindsets, really. Losing brands are completely obsessed with their features, what their competitors are doing, and trying to please the entire market. Winning brands? They're obsessed with their own distinction, the category they can create and own, and they are not afraid of creating a little friction to be memorable.
Ultimately, it really comes down to this. Winning brands understand they're not just building a product, they're building what the marketing scientist Byron Sharp calls mental availability. It's about making their brand easy to think of and impossible to ignore when it's time to buy. And that availability is built on a solid foundation of difference.
So that's the physics of it. Now, how do you apply it? This isn't about little tactics, it's about a fundamental shift in your strategy. And it starts with asking yourself a few brutally honest questions.
First up, how is your brand different? And I mean really different. Not 10% faster or with one extra little feature. If a customer saw you for the very first time, what is the one stark, memorable point of contrast that they would walk away with?
Second, what category are you truly fighting in? Are you the fifth best option in a super crowded category? Or are you the first and only option in a category you created yourself? Are you just fighting competitors, or are you defining a whole new space?
And finally, this is maybe the most challenging question of all. What would happen if you just stopped trying to please everyone? What if you embraced a little bit of friction? What if you decided that being memorable to the right people was way more important than being agreeable to everyone? That's not just a marketing question. That is the defining strategic choice between invisibility and impact.